Okay.
Okay, there's a
I only
third.
heard the ending.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a third question here. We could do this now. We could do it later. I'll just ask it and let you decide after I ask it of whether or not we want to discuss this now, because this could take 10 minutes. This could take an hour. I don't know. The question is, why doesn't Madara think that the next generation is capable?
Capable of what?
Or just why does Madara think they aren't capable? Like, he's not entrusting them like Hashirama. That's where they differ, etc., etc. And he's narratively wrong, supposedly, etc., etc. You gotta entrust the next generation.
Um,
So why doesn't
well,
Madara do that?
I think that is a this just comes back to the whole he wants to be the savior himself thing. It's just rooted in the fact that he wants to do it.
Okay.
That could be why. Whether or not you think he actually thinks they're capable or not, he might think they are, but still wants to do it. He might think they're incapable because he wants to do it. But I think that's the root cause, regardless.
So two things on that. Really, multiple things. But it's not that he thinks that it's impossible for the next generation, but that it's not like realistically possible. As an example, going back to Plato's Cave, I love talking about Plato's Cave with Madara. So, okay, someone born inside of the cave and grew up and lived inside the cave, Madara wouldn't trust their thoughts on the whole world. That's completely reasonable and understandable. That's not taking your trust away from the next generation. That's acknowledging that they are limited in their experience. I think Madara is doing the same thing here. Not that they couldn't, like if you brought that person out of the cave and showed them everything in the world, etc., etc., it's possible, not going to say it is the case, but it's possible that they would be capable. But if Madara isn't there to do
And
that, then they're not going to stumble out of the cave. So
I think
people who,
Madara just has a sense of he just doesn't trust others to an extent. He
but
almost just has trust
why?
issues. I think, well, the sad answer is a lot of it probably does depend a little bit on the early Madara backstory that we just don't have,
That's
like
interesting.
pre-flashback.
Okay.
That's one possibility. Because, like, why is it that he's so unless you want to say his distrust towards Hashirama just stems from either Tobirama or just Uchiha Senju conflict in general. He's kind of distrustful towards Hashirama at various points when honestly, like, just look at it. It's like, what? How can you not trust Hashirama there? It's like
No, I think
obvious
that
that
is the
he's
case.
genuinely like
It's going to
just
be like Romeo and Juliet, to where it's because they were
so.
born that way. So, for context, I was writing a Boruto script earlier about Boruto as a character. So, Boruto
Mhm.
is telling Naruto, like, this isn't your lame generation, dad. And there's so much that can be taken out of that line. First of all, Boruto is aware that Naruto's generation sucked, which means he knows why it sucked. He knows that it was conflict and war. He's not just going to say that for no reason. He's
I
that,
don't think
oh,
that's why
oh,
he's
Boruto,
saying
my
that.
generation was bad. It was so bad. No, he knows
No
why.
offense.
But yeah.
I don't think that's why Boruto is saying that. I think he's saying it because like Naruto's an old loser, doesn't have clean clothes, he doesn't play games, he's the Hokage, and I hate it, like stuff like that. Like I don't think he's saying it because Naruto doesn't even know that much about like the past. Like yeah, he knows there was some wars. He's all in fact, he listened to his conversation with Kakashi. He wishes he was in that generation. He thinks that's cool almost. So I don't think he's saying it thinking he thinks Sasuke's cool, all
Yeah,
this
that's
stuff.
after the
I don't
fact.
think
That's
he's
after. I'm talking
saying
about
that
early
because like,
Boruto.
oh,
Talking
the
about
wars,
like
it
episode one
sucked. Like
Boruto. No, that's after Momoshiki. I'm talking about before, or technically that might be before Momo. That's filler. I don't care. It doesn't count. Not Boruto.
either way, though, I don't think Boruto's saying it for the reason of oh, your generation's crappy because it had war, blah blah. I think he's just saying like you're old, you're weird, you know. you look like a dork. You're the Hokage, and I hate the Hokage, so I automatically hate your generation. Like, it's more like that.
Okay, well, I personally disagree, but we're not going to get into that, and we're just going to go with my interpretation for the foundation of this argument so I can continue making it. So, he's also using the word, like, lame, which is like a current generation, like, nonchalant word. He's not saying, man, your generation was hell. Your generation was dire. It sucked. Like, no, he's saying, yeah, it was pretty lame, Dad. Ugh. He's clearly expressing like annoyance with Naruto, like brushing him off.
Yeah, which I don't think makes sense if it's about hellish war.
Okay, my point for why I'm saying this, there's a difference between being born into something and experiencing it. What I mean by that is it really depends a lot on your birthplace, but just simply experiencing Naruto's generation would be entirely different from growing up in it and that being all you know, as opposed to if you know something beforehand.
Say that again. I got distracted by something about the send you in your DMs.
That's funny. So there is a difference between having something be all you know, as if you were born into something, you grew up in it, and if you experience something firsthand, even for like a prolonged exposure. So for example, I think if you took like 5-year-old Boruto and he just used the time travel turtle accidentally and traveled back to Naruto's era at 5 years old for the next like 40 years, I think that's way, way different than if Boruto was just born in Naruto's era and he just, the first 5 years were spent in Naruto's era. Not only is that switching it from like 90% time in Naruto's era to 100% time, but I think having the first experience is extremely impactful of how it imprints onto oneself.
Yeah.
So I think that would apply to Madara, is the point I was trying to make.
Well, in what sense?
Well,
I don't remember.
Not only was he born into the Warring States period, so just naturally he's more inclined to imprint onto hating the Senju, etc., etc. But also, it's all he's ever known. As opposed to if he was born in like Boruto's era for like the first 3 years of his life and then teleported back to the Warring States era.
Yeah.
So
even though like Hashirama's giving him all the science of trust in the world, like it's just genuine, but it's just like it's hard for him to break that.
Exactly, because again, at that point,
he just has trust issues.
At that point, we probably,
especially when you got Tobirama there.
Exactly, we probably completely agree on Madara at that point. He is just a normal human, like no better than anyone else. He's probably like born talented or whatever, the same as adults, but like he's at the same level as any other character in the series at that point.
Oh, real quick.
Okay. I did remember one more thing that I wanted to say. So the reason earlier I was saying there's a difference between hope and reality is because Madara wanted to believe he had hope that he could save his brothers, but in reality, he couldn't. Madara, in retrospect, when he's not hoping that anymore, because there's no more brothers to hope to save, so he doesn't have hope of saving his brothers, he can only look at reality. He would just look at what reality is. Because he's already, I don't want to say lost that hope, but doesn't have any, he lost the thing that he could have hope for. So it's not that, oh, he's giving up on reality and he's hating reality and that's why he's doing it. It's that he's being realistic because he's already lost it. He's opened his eyes. He's given up his delusion. Like you agreed, he has a desperate delusion to delude himself into thinking that he can save his brothers, that he's the one that needs to change. So that's, in my opinion, what separates Madara from Hashirama. Hashirama hasn't lost all of that yet. He hasn't had his world flipped upside down, unlike Madara. He's had his brother's side, just like Madara, but Madara still had hope, just like Hashirama still has hope, until Madara lost everything to have hope in. Hashirama never got to that point, which is one of the reasons why there is that difference between Madara and Hashirama. I'm sure you would at least agree with that.
The only thing I would disagree with is when you said, and now obviously Madara didn't save his brother, but when you said in reality Madara couldn't, I don't think it's true that there's no reality where Madara could have. Because, for example, if Madara just made the alliance with Hashirama before that battle when Izuna died, he could have saved his brother, for example. Hashirama
Well,
would have been
no,
on board.
it might delay
Bro
the
wanted to be out of the
inevitable.
alliance the entire time.
It's just gonna delay the inevitable. Izuna's eventually gonna die.
Well, from old age, yeah, obviously.
Well,
But
I'm
I
not
think
saying
in
necessarily
terms
from
of
old
like
age. I think there'd just be war
battle-y
or
things.
whatever else that happens. Or it doesn't have to be war. It could be a civil war. It just a paint bucket could fall on Izuna's head as they're building Konoha. The point is the world itself is still dangerous. It doesn't matter how strong Madara is.
Dangerous, perhaps, but I don't think it's true that there. In reality, he just never could have. I think he could have. Like Izuna could have lived an entire life without needing to be
Okay,
saved.
it's not about
Or
could have, and
maybe
it's not
Madara needs to
about
save him,
didn't.
but like
It's about the potential. Can the world kill Izuna despite Madara? Yes. There is a situation where that can happen. It doesn't matter what Madara does. There is a situation where it can happen. That's the problem. Not because you're saying the inverse.
well, but you could also argue it wasn't the universe that killed Izuna. It was Madara for not forging the alliance with Hashirama sooner.
Okay. I have something to completely discredit and dismantle everything I've ever said. So, not really, but you could argue it's Madara that killed Izuna through the blood lost through his eye socket.
Well, that too.
Yeah. Maybe Izuna was gonna live after all. He's just wrong. Oh, that's funny.
Ignoring that goofier one,
Yeah.
the more serious one, I think, would just be that, well, had Madara just cooperated with Hashirama sooner before Izuna died, Izuna might not have died. Would be the more serious one.
Well, okay, but again, the fact that you're saying might implies that no matter what, he still could have, which was my point. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, because, well, obviously, I don't have Koji's 10 directions, so I don't know. I'm just not going to make a definitive claim.
Okay,
But
yeah, sure.
my point is that it's possible.
Well, no,
that,
you already did make a definitive
the
claim by
point is
saying
just
might.
that Izuna wasn't guaranteed to die, and for all we know, it's actually Madara indirectly who led to his death. And my point there is I just wouldn't say he couldn't save Izuna. He didn't. But I wouldn't say... now, obviously, you can say in the story Madara couldn't save Izuna, but like, I'm just saying in a theoretical sense, I don't think it's impossible for him to have saved Izuna in this world.
Okay, but you also just said couldn't guarantee. You started by saying might. By saying might, you are saying definitively an answer. It's not that he definitively can or definitively can't. By saying might, it is implying that he definitively can't.
Huh? Wait.
It's a reality.
What was the statement I said, and what was I implying?
So my point is that either could happen. There is a reality where one or the other could happen.
Okay. Did I not say that?
We can move on.
Feel like that was my point, but anyway.
Anyways, whatever. Okay, so do you remember when I asked this question?
Which question?
It was about the hope versus reality of the situation. So I asked this like a long time ago. Do you remember why or what this was in pertaining to? The overall question that I was getting from, whatever.
My best guess is relating to the Madara hopes Hashirama is stronger.
That's not it. Okay. So it was about why does Madara trust himself? So I think the reason is, going off of what we just said, that Madara is no longer essentially deluding himself or relying on hope. He's looking at reality and what reality is. In reality, Madara couldn't save his brothers. So why does he think he can save the world? He doesn't have hope in it because he's not looking at that in a hopeful situation. It's not that it's hopeless, but it's that he's looking at it in a realistic situation. So Madara is looking at this from a realistic situation. Why would Madara realistically think, not hope, but think that he can save the world after he failed to save his brothers? I'll let you go before I go, because I already have my answer, obviously. But...
Well, my answer is the same as what I said earlier.
Yeah, that's what I imagined. I was wondering if we could change the context.
Need, blah, blah, blah stuff.
Okay, that's fine. I never gave my answer earlier, which is why I was doing all this now. Okay. So, that being said, I think the answer is because of experience. Madara is, again, looking at it from the third-person perspective, Madara is not like gassing himself up for his own hubris or whatever. He's looking at himself and his experience.
I have a funny argument against this.
And Shinobi history separate from everyone else. It's more than just this, but it's the fact that he grew up in the Warring States era, which is before society was established, so he knows what that is like. He grew up in society when society first started, so he knows what that's like. He saw society shift, which again, this is the thesis of my Madara essay. So he knows what that's like. That's 3. And then he left society. So he is in a post-society world. See how the world itself has changed after society, basically, because he's no longer in it. He left it. That's 4. So he's experienced 4 different things. There's more than just that, but he's the only one who has done that. So of all people that can save the world, it's Madara.
What is the society you're referring to? Just like the other villages making villages, or like what's the shift you're referring to?
Well, there's no one specific thing, but yeah, that would be included in it. It's just as time has gone on before Madara has left and things have changed from the origination of society. For example, when was Hashirama inaugurated? Was that immediately, or is that like
actually,
a little bit
that's
into
a good
it?
point. Madara left before the other villages started making other villages, and they have like 5 Kage summon and stuff.
Okay. Well, specifically, I'd probably be just referring to Tobirama and how he made progress or degress towards the Uchiha, and how Madara saw that, which is one of the reasons why he left.
Anything shifted. Like Tobirama just said his concerns, and it was like 2 days into the village or what.
Okay, like, Madara's not leaving over concerns. He's leaving over the reality that he knows it's gonna happen.
Well, it was a fear that he couldn't save his clan over. I mean, just because it's true in the end doesn't mean it wasn't a fear / concern.
Anyways, I would say that's a shift. It's shifted from very beginning to that point where he left. At the very least, well,
I don't want to hop on this either, but you could argue that it's not a shift. It's Madara saying this is how it always was, meaning it was never a shift.
That's one interpretation in terms of that, I guess, if you want to say that. I still think mine is absolutely the way to go with, but at the very least, you have...
I don't really care that much.
Sure. You have the little girl with the flower pot going up to Madara. She seems real peaceful, as if she wasn't from the Warring States era. Something like that. How about that?
Okay, anyway.
It's about kids growing up, or really it's being born.
More with your experience thing?
It's about kids being born and raised growing up in this society for the first time. So they never experienced the Warring States era. So that's the shift. There you go. It's a different generation. New generation. That's the shift. It's
Do you have
mostly...
more with your experience thing, or is that the overall point?
Well, that's the overall point. We don't need to go further with that. It's mostly in my essay anyways.
So do you want my funny debunk argument?
Sure. I mean, I'll take both, but...
Your premise is that Madara's experience is why he trusts himself.
Well, what I will say is that...
The experiences he has.
So, okay. Madara's looking at it holistically. Who should be entrusted to save the world? Madara, coincidentally, has more experience than anyone, so he is the one electing himself to save the world, not because he himself needs to be a savior, but
the
because
point is it's because of Madara's experiences, right?
Because in reality, he's the one most likely to accomplish it. Not only through his physical power, his literal strength, which is something the cruel world.
Okay. The point is it's because of his experiences. Okay, so what has Madara experienced? Failing to save people. So by that argument, his experiences would dictate him as actually the one person he shouldn't trust, because he's only known failure in that regard.
No, I would disagree.
Based on his experiences.
Well, yeah, no, that's experience. He has known it, so he knows exactly what it's like, what led to it, etc., etc.
And he doesn't know the success part, so he doesn't know how to get to success like Koji. Which would lead credence to my interpretation.
Okay. You know what?
I said,
yeah, go ahead.
Funny argument, but it does work.
It's a funny argument. Okay. Let's give this hypothetical to you. Let's just say Koji, the current Koji, teleported to Madara at this time of his life, when he's deciding who's going to save the world, or that the world needs to be saved, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Madara knows everything about Koji, everything that Koji told Boruto, or whatever. Do you still think that Madara is choosing he himself to save the world, or is he choosing Koji?
He's choosing himself. He's just gonna go with the infinite Tsukuyomi. It's not even Koji's plan anyway.
Well, let's just say that no. The point is that in this case, Koji agrees with Madara, and Koji wants to activate the infinite Tsukuyomi too.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I think he would choose himself, and it would be his own downfall. It's like he shouldn't do it, but like, I don't know if he would trust Koji. You know, like, even though Koji would have the answers, I don't know if that he would trust him over himself.
Okay, when you say that, because again, this goes back to trust. We established why Madara trusts himself, because the realistic aspect rather than the hope. Madara has the most experience, that's my opinion. So, okay, your interpretation isn't necessarily what I just said. It's that the thing that he wants to save the world, and that's the time where he's so deluded and desperate now it's when he's wanting to save the world rather than his brothers. That was my interpretation. And that's why he has the savior complex, why he himself wants to save the world. Are you saying it because of that? Or are you going with my interpretation of who Madara would trust from the realistic perspective on experience / other miscellaneous factors? Because I feel like from your perspective, there's only one option. From my perspective is where you could go either way, and I'd be curious on your interpretation. But before that, which one are you going with?
Yeah, so I'm going more with my interpretation. I just don't think he would trust anyone no matter what.
Yeah, well, in that case, then, yeah, that would just shut down. I agree, under your interpretation. He wouldn't trust Shibai himself. So,
yeah, like, unless he got Shibai to, like, be Madara, like Obito. Like,
well, but again, that's weird that he's trusting Obito regardless, especially considering he's proud, which tells me the pride thing, it did shift from living Madara to Madara will Madara. First of all, do you agree that the pride shifted, as a side note?
In what sense?
The reason that he's proud. Because either way, he's proud.
Well, because, like, for example, his pride in fighting, let's just say, I don't think there's any difference with Edo Madara versus alive Madara beating the crap out of people and loving the fact that he's beating the shit out of them.
That's fine.
Being proud of his strength. I don't think there's any difference there.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not saying he can't incorporate things from his living self. Like, I'm sure that did just cross over anyways.
But, like, proud to be an Uchiha, maybe it is equally there. We're not seeing it with Edo Madara. Bro's not gassing up the Uchiha clan. Oh, I just love being an Uchiha. Blah blah. He's not like he's talking about it. So like,
Yeah.
it's either the same or it's just less in that regard.
Well, no, I agree.
There's
If anything,
nothing to
I think he
indicate.
would be disgusted in himself as an Uchiha because the Uchiha are people who need to be saved, aka they're unsaved people who are evil, which would mean that Madara is evil. But again, he's not referring to himself as Madara, so that feeling in himself doesn't exist. It's a thought, not a feeling. That's how you would just view it, like Shinobi Hitsu.
There's also the argument that he would like, because so Obito pretending to be Madara, quote unquote, wants revenge against the Uchiha. Like, it's like in the discussion with Itachi to massacre the clan. Assuming he's getting that from Madara, Madara is disgusted at the Uchiha for like betraying him and whatnot. So
Exactly. It's like a delusion, similar to Obito. Yeah. Okay. Under my interpretation, Obito first liked the Leaf Village and then realized that he's always hated the Leaf Village. He opened his eyes, got rid of his naivety, and realized what he was actually looking at the whole time. Similarly, Madara would have thought that he loved the Uchiha because he was born and raised in the Uchiha. He was just told to love his parents, etc., etc. Once he realized that all people are evil because they're unsaved currently, which would include the Uchiha, then he would retroactively hate the Uchiha and everyone else.
Well, I mean, I follow your line of thinking.
Okay. Well, that was the end of that, I think.